Dame Victoria Madeline Sharp to swear her oath of allegiance and judicial oath as the President of the Queen's Bench Division. Put your hand on the book for me. Say after me.
I, Victoria Madeline Sharp,
Do swear by Almighty God
do swear by Almighty God
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II,
to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II,
her heirs and successors according to law.
her heirs and successors according to law. I, Victoria Madeline Sharp,
do swear by Almighty God
do swear by Almighty God
that I will well and truly serve
that I will well and truly serve
our Sovereign Lady Queen Elizabeth II
our Sovereign Lady Queen Elizabeth II
in the office of President of the Queen's Bench Division,
in the office of President of the Queen's Bench Division,
and I will do right to all manner of people
and I will do right to all manner of people
after the laws and usages of this realm,
after the laws and usages of this realm,
without fear or favour,
without fear or favour,
affection or ill will.
affection or ill will.
If you could sign the oath, please, both parts of it. And the book, please. 3 signatures.
Mr. Atkins, on Friday, we gathered to bid farewell to Sir Brian Leveson as President of the Queen's Bench Division. This afternoon, we celebrate Dame Victoria Sharp's appointment as his successor as we receive her oaths of office. Now, Dame Victoria was educated in North London and then at Bristol University, where she read law. She had determined on a career in the law, indeed as a barrister, from a very early age. It was certainly apparent by the time she was about 12. Her father was then working in the United States, and as any of you who had expatriate parents will remember, correspondence was conducted via flimsy blue airmail letters. Dame Victoria retains a letter from her father encouraging her in her ambition. He commented on her eloquence, something we all recognize, and added, "One day you might become a High Court judge." That was a remarkable piece of foresight, given that at the time there was only one woman High Court judge, Mrs. Justice Elizabeth Lane. Dame Victoria herself tells me that there was an element of stubbornness in her choice. She well knew, even as an early teenager, that the world of law was one of the most difficult in which women could prosper, and she was damn well going to show everyone that she could conquer it. Rising to challenges has been a hallmark of her career. Dame Victoria was called to the bar by the Inner Temple in 1979 and took silk in 2001. She became a bencher of her inn in 2009. Our new president's practice was in defamation and media law. She was pupil to Richard Rampton at One Brick Court and remained as a tenant from where she practiced until she became a judge of the Queen's Bench Division in 2009. And what a remarkable practice it was. We will hear more of that, I'm sure, from Lord Garnier in a few minutes. But whether as a junior or in silk, Dame Victoria was involved in many of the most high-profile cases in the field. When asked for the Times Lawyer of the Week feature in 2007, what her worst day as a lawyer had been, she answered, no doubt rather matter-of-factly, although perhaps with an impish grin, getting run over on the pedestrian crossing outside the Royal Courts of Justice. She added that she was in the middle of a long-running libel action, that was Lord Aldington and Tolstoy, and then continued, but luckily it was a Friday lunchtime, so I was able to return on Monday in plaster. How many, I wonder, would have done that? One of my personal pleasures in welcoming Dame Victoria today is that our judicial lives have run pretty well in parallel. We both became assistant recorders in 1998 and attended the training course presided over by the then Mr. Justice Judge. That was as hard a 4 days' work as we have ever endured. In 2008, Dame Victoria became a Deputy High Court Judge before joining the Queen's Bench Division in 2009. I was then delighted to learn that Dame Victoria was to join me as a presiding judge on the Western Circuit at the beginning of 2013. And when she took up the post, she enthusiastically became involved in all the affairs of the circuit. Now, it's not unheard of for presiding judges to bail out before the end of their 4-year term because the Court of Appeal has beckoned. But Dame Victoria confessed to me only after a few months in office that many were encouraging her to apply to the Court of Appeal, which was then in need of some media experience. She was, of course, immediately appointed in October 2013. And that was after only 4 years in the High Court. We lost her from the Western Circuit to the Court of Appeal because she combined legal skills with those of organisation and leadership, which are in great demand. She threw herself into many activities, not least reviewing and revising welfare arrangements for judges. No one could have been surprised when in 2016 she was appointed Vice President of the Queen's Bench Division, a member of the Judicial Executive Board and of the Judges' Council. In that role, she worked closely with her predecessor in dealing with the vast range of responsibilities that attach to the Queen's Bench Division. Not only crime, both on circuit and in the Court of Appeal Criminal Division, and a wide range of civil cases, but also the Commercial Court, the Admiralty Court, the Technology and Construction Court, the Administrative Court, and the Queen's Bench Masters. Overall responsibility for all those areas now falls to our new president, along with much criminal policy work and continued involvement in all issues that affect the judiciary. All who've worked with Dame Victoria can attest to her calm and insightful contributions to debate and her remarkable capacity for hard work. I do wonder, however, whether an early display of stubbornness and sense of humour when a pupil might have brought the promising career to an end. The early 80s was a time when many people smoked at work. The media world were big smokers, and so too was Dame Victoria's pupil master. She detested conducting business in the fug of multiple smokers, and not least because her pupil master smoked particularly filthy French cigarettes. I've been informed by a former member of her chambers, possibly reliably, that over lunch one day she emptied a firework of its gunpowder and stuffed a little into the end of each gitane and then awaited events. In conference, Mr. Rampton calmly took a cigarette to show solidarity with his media friends. He lit it and it exploded in his face. The room erupted in laughter, but the pupil was seen to be studying her notebook with special intensity while trying to stifle giggles. In those chambers, it went down as the only recorded example of a pupil trying to assassinate a pupil master. Whether she was taken on as a tenant because of or in spite of this incident remains a mystery. Now, I've observed that before that in advance of welcoming a judge publicly to any new role, I have a quick look at the internet for inspiration. Dame Victoria seems to maintain an iron grip on what information is available publicly about her. Her Who's Who entry is Spartan, her Wikipedia profile short. There are judges about whom I receive emails from their friends, often including very interesting but quite unusable material, at least in a public forum, Yet in Dame Victoria's case, she seems to have maintained a discipline which would be the envy of any chief whip. There's nothing. But having been given the account of her incendiary character, if I can call it that, my attention lighted upon an internet entry which said simply, FBI video shows Victoria Sharp surrendering to the police. For a moment I did wonder whether the two things might be connected, but I'm unable to make a positive identification from the accompanying video. Indeed, I'm confident it's not our Victoria Sharp. The suspect is wearing terrible shoes and tracksuit bottoms. Dame Victoria has taken on one of the biggest jobs in the law. Understandably, her appointment was greeted with universal approbation. The role requires energy, leadership, and vision, all of which Dame Victoria has in abundance. In Dame Victoria Sharp, we have a President of the Queen's Bench Division superbly qualified to discharge all the obligations of her office, and who will bring wisdom, insight, and, if I may say so, a sense of fun to her new role. We congratulate her on her appointment and wish her well as she embarks on the next stage of her most remarkable career.
My Lord, I feel that I'm becoming a bit of an old hand at these valedictories, having welcomed Sir Andrew Macfarlane, having said farewell to Sir David Foskett and Sir Brian Leveson only last Friday. But I was not sure quite what to expect today in welcoming the new President of the Queen's Bench Division. As you will remember, I attended the Commonwealth Law Conference in April in Zambia, as did you and Lady Justice Sharp, whose appointment to succeed Sir Brian had just been announced. The conference was opened by the Zambian President, who arrived, how should I put it diplomatically, somewhat after the published start time, accompanied by many security guards and much ululating. I wondered if it may have given our soon-to-be President any ideas. And so I cleared the entire evening from my diary. I put some earplugs in my pocket. The security contingent that has preceded her today is of a similar size to those who accompanied the President. But I'm relieved to be able to tell you, my Lord, so far they have been somewhat quieter. Now, I appreciate that what goes on tour generally stays on tour. But there is one story that needs mentioning. The conference was held in the very pleasant but quite functional Avani Hotel close to the Victoria Falls. A short distance away was the vastly superior Victoria Falls Hotel, something of a throwback to the colonial days. I visited it and could only just about afford to share a beer with the head of the Bar Council's international team. You, my Lord, and I stayed in the Avani Hotel. Lady Justice Sharp was upgraded to the Victoria Falls Hotel. Whether there is any truth in the rumour that when asked for her name, she replied, President Sharp, I simply do not know. Now, so far, I have not had the good fortune of appearing in front of the President, so have not had the opportunity of calling her Your Honour or messing up in any other spectacular way as I did with her predecessor, yet. I did, however, sit as a recorder in Warwick Crown Court some years ago when, as she then was, Mrs. Justice Sharp was there. The resident judge, His Honour Judge Richard Griffith-Jones, his deputy, my friend, the late His Honour Judge Alan Parker, to hold the fort. I arrived in the judicial dining room at lunchtime to find Alan in a state of high anxiety. Where should he put the High Court judge at the judicial table? What seating plan should there be? How should he address her? These were just some of the questions that poured out from him. I tried to calm him, telling him not to worry, as there were only likely to be Alan, myself, and possibly Her Majesty's coroner at lunch, so there wasn't too much of a seating plan to be sorted out. And there was, in any event, no guarantee, given how hard we know she worked, that she would be joining us. He relaxed momentarily, and we sat down to start lunch. No sooner had we sat down than Mrs. Justice Sharp entered the dining room. Alan bolted upright, drawing himself up to his full 5'6" on tiptoe, before bowing so low he nearly banged his head on the floor. Myself and Her Majesty's Coroner felt obliged to do the same. Well, at least we stood up. And Mrs. Justice Sharp stood there wide-eyed, no doubt wondering what on earth was going on and what sort of court she had actually come to. Thankfully, my lady told us to sit down and carry on with our lunch and did her best to put Alan at his ease. No easy task, but she managed it with aplomb. My Lord, I'm delighted to be able to welcome the new President of the Queen's Bench Division. Although of all of the people I've had to do valedictories for, either as Chair of the Bar or former Leader of the Midland Circuit, she, as you have already mentioned, is proving to be one of the most difficult. Her Who's Who entry must be one of the shortest in the book, and as you've already pointed out, lists no interests, although I understand she has a huge interest in and is a discerning critic of the arts, and particularly music, and we will not be hearing any "Who are the Beatles?" or even Stormzy questions when she is presiding. Her Wikipedia entry, though, may need a little more work on it, as it suggests she took silk in 1986 at only 7 years' call. That's even earlier than Lord Justice Voss. And that she was on the High Court bench from 1993 to 2000. What she did between 2000 and her elevation to the Court of Appeal in 2013 is anybody's guess. My lady did, though, serve, as you've mentioned, for a short period as presider on the Western Circuit. I'm told by a former leader of the circuit that in one case over which she presided, there had to be a site visit to a pretty rough district in Bristol, during the course of which a rather large and not entirely friendly crowd gathered. Mrs. Justice Sharp's brooch and necklace, worn discreetly, were glinting noticeably in the sunlight, and the Western Circuit leader, former chair of the bar, quite a big chap, was decidedly nervous. The rather smaller High Court judge, though, remained as cool as a cucumber. Whether that was because she was familiar with the area from her days at Bristol University, I have been unable to discover. My Lord, I understand that the President decided that a career at the bar was for her, having spent much of her childhood defending her naughty brother in front of their parental court, and we have a lot to thank him for. She had a stellar career at the defamation bar, of which we'll hear more from Lord Garnier shortly. A short 4-year tenure on the High Court bench was a great success before her elevation to the Court of Appeal in 2013, and it is no surprise to any of us at the bar that she has been chosen to take over from Sir Brian. My spies tell me that there are no easy rides in my lady's court, but that if you are well prepared and your arguments are sound, you could not ask for a fairer tribunal, one who will listen with care and has even been known to give a nod of encouragement on occasions. May I, on behalf of the bar in England and Wales, wish her well in this new post, and may I say I'm looking forward to working with her in the remaining half of my term as chair of the bar.
Thank you. Ms. Blacklaws.
President, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, as President of the Law Society of England and Wales and on behalf of the solicitors' profession, it's a great joy to welcome you as President of the Queen's Bench Division, and we very much look forward to working with you. Through your work in the Court of Appeal, the High Court, the Western Circuit, and at the bar, your ladyship has been involved in many cases that have attracted the attention of the press and the public at large. The rise in social media and other societal changes have led to our institutions facing heightened scrutiny. In recent years, we've seen both the judiciary and the legal profession face stringent criticism for simply doing its job, delivering justice and upholding the rule of law. The legal profession stand ready to play our role in explaining and defending the key principles of our justice system. This must include the need for due process and the crucial role of our esteemed judiciary, particularly when your lordships and ladyships can't do so yourselves. The solicitor's profession will continue to champion the rule of law, and we have no doubt that collaboration with your ladyship will be part of this. The rule of law is also demonstrated through delivering the principle of access to justice. And our justice system is facing challenges from new technologies and fluctuations in public spending. Technology is bringing new crimes and new forms of evidence, which we must have the skills and the resources to tackle. We've also seen several new legal tests from technology in your ladies' area of specialism. But technology also has a big part to play in improving the way that we deliver justice. And your ladyship's role in the Lord Chief Justice's Advisory Group on Artificial Intelligence will seek to ensure the jurisdiction is ready to take advantage of the opportunities that technology will bring. The solicitor's profession will work with you on this important project. And on a personal note, I look forward to working together in my capacity as chair of the Law Tech Delivery Panel to face into these challenges and to embrace the opportunities that emerging technologies bring to our justice system. Challenges also come from the impact of the reduction in the availability of legal aid, and this has eroded access to justice for some of the most vulnerable in our society and led to regional disparities in accessing legal aid. It's also had a significant impact on the sustainability of our professions. We look forward to working with your ladyship to ensure that we continue to have a justice system which serves all and is admired by the world. And finally, and on an issue which is very close to my heart, I really want to commend you as the first woman to hold this esteemed position of President of the Queen's Bench Division. While soon I hope there will be no more firsts for women to reach any position in the legal profession, this should not take away from the need to celebrate each and every time that it happens. Your ladyship has always been an amazing trailblazer, and I have no doubt that you will bring the passion and the dedication you have brought to your legal and your judicial careers so far to this crucial role in challenging times. President, once again, may I welcome you to your new role.
Lord Garnier.
My Lord, I have noticed that a tradition has grown up for occasions such as this. An elderly male silk on the downhill path to retirement, if not death, gets up to tell the Lord Chief Justice that thanks to the many cases in which he led the newly promoted or appointed judge and the way in which he skillfully guided him or her through the thickets of their early practice, this fortunate man or woman is now to adorn the Court of Appeal or the High Court bench. In my case, it is true that retirement and even death may shortly cut short my practice at the bar, although I hope not quite yet. But in the case of Dame Victoria Sharp, we are venturing into radical territory. I have never led her in a case, which may go some way, but perhaps not very far, to explain why she is sitting alongside you as the new president of the Queen's Bench Division. My Lord, if Dame Victoria's family have every reason to be pleased today, so too do her other family, we, her friends from her old chambers, One Brick Court. Our congratulations to her are heartfelt. It was there not so long ago that she began what became a stellar career at the bar and on the bench. As you have said, my Lord, she read law at Bristol. In 2014, her university made her an honorary Doctor of Laws. It was made clear by the orator that Bristol had been her first choice as an undergraduate. That was, if I may say so, entirely unnecessary. Victoria Sharp doesn't understand expressions such as second choice or second best. Called to the bar in 1979, she joined us as a tenant in our small specialist chambers, specializing in media law, after her pupillage, an eventful pupillage, as you've described, with Richard Rampton. And so began the story that brings us to today. It was clear beyond any doubt that our new tenant was a worker. Our clerks knew that she could be relied on from a very early stage. No solicitor was let down by this barrister, even if the instructions for tomorrow's case were delivered late. No judge was left disappointed by her failure to prepare, to marshal the facts and the law, or by a confused or incoherent presentation. No leader was ever left wondering why they'd been lumbered with a dunce for a junior. No client ever felt they had not got their money's worth in court or on paper. No opponent failed to notice that they faced an opponent, not a patsy in court. Her thoroughness was not only legendary from her beginnings at the bar, but has underscored her professional life as a more senior junior, as a silk, and as a judge. But let it not be thought that the new president of the Queen's Bench Division is a dullard or a drudge. Never make that mistake, my lord, and I'm sure you haven't. It is said, but this must be a lie, that when, as an undergraduate, Dame Victoria went to watch a murder trial at Bristol Crown Court, the details were so gruesome that she fainted. Not much phases her. As a heavily pregnant barrister appearing before the judge in chambers in room 98, she went into labour. Although the baby was good enough to wait until she'd finished her submissions, I suspect that both the judge and her opponent were mightily relieved that they did not have to act as midwives, and no doubt Emily is relieved that she wasn't called Duncan, Neil, or Gatley. I confessed at the outset that I'd never led Victoria Sharp. I have, though, appeared in cases with and against her, perhaps most notably in the libel action brought by the late Lord Aldington against Nikolai Tolstoy over allegations that he'd been a war criminal. It was tried before Mr. Justice Michael Davis, not always a dispassionate forum, and a jury in 1989. The claimant was represented by Mr. Charles Grey, Queen's Counsel, as he then was, and a barely 33-year-old Miss Sharp, led by Richard Rampton, who appeared for Tolstoy. I appeared for his co-defendant, Nigel Watts. It was historically, factually, and legally a totally absorbing case in which we were concerned with just 10 days of May 1945. And for me, it would have been even more absorbing had my advice and my instructions not parted company, leading my client to sack me after a few weeks into the very long trial, but these things happen. Lord Aldington was later awarded record libel damages of £1.5 million. It was a stressful case, but throughout my involvement in the many months before the trial and the weeks of it, Victoria Sharp was supportive, collegiate, and a constant source of both encouragement and extra strong mints. Time alone does not allow me to list the cases she appeared in, both as a junior and more particularly in silk, but there were a good many of them, mostly but not always for defendant newspapers requiring a lot of work. Patience and an ability to get on and do the job on behalf of demanding and sometimes not entirely rational clients whose interest in the facts was marginal and who occasionally found the distinction between what was interesting to the public and what was in the public interest inconvenient. I also appeared before Her Ladyship in the criminal division of the Court of Appeal when I was Solicitor General. The courtesy with which she listened to my submissions was not artificial, but nor was she held back by our friendship from pulling me up if my arguments strayed from the point at issue. Her focus on the essential, on the matters that need to be decided, will, I know, assist her in the administrative work that lies ahead of her, just as it has enabled her to get to the heart of cases she has had to try at first instance or deal with on appeal. Her judgments in the Court of Appeal and in the High Court in areas inside and outside the law of defamation repay careful study and display a humanity and an exemplary care for justice. My Lord, for me and for all of us who have grown up and developed as barristers at One Brick Court, today is a bittersweet day. We are overjoyed and proud to be able to congratulate one of our own, Dame Victoria, on her appointment as President of the Queen's Bench Division. That she is the first woman to hold that office is, I suspect, a matter of delightful indifference. But our great joy at her success is tempered by the fact that our chambers, which has nurtured such a superlative legal talent as her over its long history, closed its doors yesterday after nearly 150 years. We have all found new homes at 5RB, at Doughty Street, at Ely Place, as in-house lawyers at newspapers and solicitors' firms, in retirement, and in my case at 4 Pump Court. But as our little band disperses, we ask you to allow us this one indulgence, that with the appointment of Dame Victoria Sharp as the new president, we can plant our standard on the judicial heights, and that on it we can embroider her name, as well as the names of just some of her predecessors, mentors, and contemporaries from chambers who, like her, have helped to make the law of England. Fraser, Slade, Duncan, Folkes, Cusack, Neil, Hurst, Houlihan, Hartley, Britton, Praviti, Rampton, Eadie, Walker, Shaw, Shields, Maloney, and Caldecott. My Lord, thank you.
Now, it's my great pleasure to present you with letters patent, which I shall hand to you. As you know, as do most people here, I snatch them back so that when you leave court, your hands are free to shake the hands of all your colleagues. Now, I think the registrar has a duty to perform at this stage, or the senior master.
I think it's probably me, my lord. I move that these proceedings be recorded in the books of the Queen's Bench Division.
So be it.
Court rise.